Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
And taking a look at the latest where Hurricane Debbie is and where it's headed, I'll show you when we'll start to see those first outer rain bands here.
And people in the southeast are getting ready for the storm, and our team has you covered. The effects in Florida already this morning and the local preparations before we see the bigger effect coming to our state.
And happening now in the WRAL Traffic Center, we're following some breaking news this morning. A crash causing quite a bit of delay on I-40 and Lake Wheeler Road. We'll tell you how long this is going to add to your commute and an alternate route to get around it.
And Team USA builds on their first place lead as superstar Simone Biles goes for gold again. We are tracking the day's competition in Paris. Good morning and welcome in on your Monday morning here on Fox 50. I'm Michelle McConaughey.
I'm Chris Lovingood. We did see that Simone in her last competition, though, came in, fifth, I believe. So
yes.
not the ending we wanted there. It's okay.
She got a lot of gold, though.
She got a lot of gold,
good.
though. So something to celebrate about. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Chris Lovingood. We're going to check a little bit on the weather situation because Debbie has made landfall this morning. You're looking right now at a live image down in Florida as this car is showing you the rain that's hitting that windshield there. So we do want to get into that in just a little bit more. But first, we want to check in with meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner because you have the radar showing us the path right now.
So this is where the center of circulation is, and it's moving onshore just west of Gainesville, southeast of Tallahassee. Officially, the center made landfall at around 7 o'clock near Steinhatchee, Florida. So it continues to move up to the north. Notice how much rain there is out ahead of it. This is pretty typical for tropical systems. A lot of times when the center of circulation moves into an area, we've already seen the worst of it. Brand new information at 8 a.m. Winds are now at 75 miles per hour, so just barely hurricane status. But that will cause some wind issues. Of course, we could see in that live view, it looked like we were probably going to have some trees down on roads there as that continues to move off to the north and east. It's moving at about 10 miles per hour and will continue to track across Georgia, out into the Atlantic, and then back into South Carolina and eventually up into North Carolina. And out ahead of this storm is where we're going to see most of the trouble. It's going to be a very slow mover that's going to allow it to sit in one place and just dump and dump and dump the rain. So for North Carolina, for our viewing area, our northern counties 4 to 8 inches, and from Raleigh southward as much as 6 to 10, and that will be over around a 3 to 4 day time frame. So we're looking at a medium risk for flooding, but it could be catastrophic from, say, Wilmington on down through South Carolina, as there could be anywhere from 10 to 20 inches of rain. Well, we're going to see today, this afternoon, just a few isolated storms and the rain bands beginning to affect the Wilmington area. We'll start to see the first rain bands here tomorrow, and then the rain will continue to be very heavy at the coast. Wednesday through Friday will be the days that we end up seeing the heaviest rain here, as well as some 20 to 40 mile per hour gusts. So we have a couple more days to prepare, especially today. We'll start to see some rain bands tomorrow. Now, unrelated to Debbie, we had some showers across the area this morning. So Apex still a little wet this morning. 79 the temperature with a dew point of 74. So very heavy tropical feel to the atmosphere. A 20 to 30% chance of some afternoon and evening storms. Our highs this afternoon will be in the upper 80s. That's as warm as it's going to be all week as we transition to such a wet pattern with Debbie. Ken?
At 8:03, Elizabeth, we continue to follow breaking news here in the WRAL Traffic Center. A crash on I-40 westbound near Gorman Street, just about a half mile from this camera here on I-40 and Lake Wheeler Road. You can see the huge backup it's causing there on the south side of the Beltline this morning. When you look at the drive times, you're looking at a 24-minute delay there on the south side of the Beltline. So if you're coming in from Johnston County in particular, I would use the northern side of the Beltline as a safe bet to get around that. Another trouble spot this morning we've been following is these northbound lanes of US 1 between 64 and State Road 540, and that's really your alternate route this morning to avoid the backup we're seeing there on the US 1 northbound lanes. Head over to State Road 540 and get over on 64 and work your way back to US 1. That'll help you avoid that situation that's happening right there in those northern lanes of US 1. Elsewhere around the triangle in Durham, we're seeing delays in the north and southbound lanes of I-885, probably adding about 3 minutes to your commute time. And on the northern side of the Beltline, we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown, but it's just really traffic just picking up. And there's a live look at the northern part of the Beltline. The westbound lanes are moving away from us on I-40, 440, and Capitol Boulevard this morning.
Yeah, thanks. Let's get you now live a image out in Perry, Florida. This is in the Florida Panhandle. Oh, it's a little bit southeast of Tallahassee, and you'll see here from this car, you see that tree down there as well, and there appears to be a truck on the ground over there to the right as well. It's not quite clear from this angle if the tree is on the vehicle, but this is just showing you what kind of situation is unfolding in Florida as Hurricane Debbie made landfall not long ago. We do have team coverage this morning. WRAL's Laura Levine is at Lake Johnson in Raleigh, where North Carolinians are preparing for Debbie. But first, let's start with Michelle McConaughey and the WRAL Live Center. What are you tracking? Actually, it's not Michelle.
Hey,
it is
Chris. Chris, thanks. That'd be a neat trick. She's next to you out there. But hey, you were showing the Big Bend area, the Panhandle area, Tallahassee. I want to go all the way across the state right here and show you Jacksonville Beach. OK, so this is a live look what's happening right now, because as Elizabeth was talking about, that rain has pushed out ahead of this, and it is potentially record-setting rain. There's flood watches. There is storm surge concerns right now as that rain pushes forward. There are more than 200,000 people in Florida, customers, without power right now. And instead of when a hurricane comes, they're talking about making sure things are secure, that they don't blow away. Folks locally are talking about securing things from floating away now because of all this rain that is happening. WRAL has a crew. It's going to head south this morning. Again, this is a live look in Jacksonville. We're going to head south this morning, meet up with the storm, and follow it as it moves up the coast. But some of the concerns that we have here locally, Laura Levine is looking into, and there are some things that she's out at Lake Johnson Park. There are some things that folks can do ahead of time, and the city has done to prepare for this. Laura.
Crews here in Raleigh began preparing for Debbie over the weekend. Heavy rainfall is a major concern in this area. That's exactly why they came out here to begin lowering lake levels at lakes like Lake Johnson. You can see things are nice and quiet, but here's a look at some video giving you an idea of the process. This is from Ethan Clark with the city's stormwater team. He has been working closely with emergency management, and they made the call to proactively lower city lakes. This allows them to store more water and helps reduce flooding concerns along Walnut Creek. Now, over on the Carolina coast, we're already seeing the impacts of Debbie. Rough water picking up at Wrightsville Beach, where Ocean Rescue is flying those red flags.
We need access to the beach. We don't want people, going out even knee high. You do go out, you do become in trouble. That's now putting our lifeguards in unnecessary risk to go out and rescue you when, it's been very clear you should not be getting in the ocean.
Rip currents also a major concern at this time. Officials say the conditions will likely get worse as the days progress, as North Carolina is directly in Debbie's path. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Raleigh.
And flash flooding in Raleigh caused a lot of problems for drivers yesterday. Take a look at these videos here. Streets looked more like lakes and rivers, with water pooling up and clearing out just as fast. This was the diverging Diamond interchange on Western Boulevard. Cars swerved and slowed to avoid sliding on the water that seeped into the road. Meanwhile, this was the side of Saunders Street. A car stalled out in the water there. Crews came out in the rain working to drain it to get the car moving again. And on Cutler Street, rushing water flowed like a river along a neighborhood road. The water pushed past cars parked in the pavement. And on Hillsborough Street, slick spots and ponding raised the risk for hydroplaning. There was a vehicle stalled in standing water earlier. The rain saturated the ground, bringing a potential for even more flooding and damage. And another crash to report, this one involving a Wake County Sheriff's Office vehicle. This is video from the WRAL breaking news tracker that's on I-540 near Creedmoor Road. We still don't know much about this crash, but WRAL's Nick Perlin was on the scene and said the deputy's car was badly damaged and someone was in handcuffs. We'll keep you updated when we hear back on the details of this crash.
WRAL is following a developing story in Raleigh from overnight. A car crashed on I-440 near Capitol Boulevard just after 11 o'clock last night. This crash shut down several lanes of traffic. Notice the damage to the red car and a Raleigh police vehicle, too. We are working to learn more about what exactly led up to the crash and if anyone was injured.
A busy part of I-440 just got an upgrade. Today is the first morning commute that drivers will use a new on-ramp onto Wade Avenue towards the airport. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey shows us how the new interchange will ease congestion in that area.
Your next drive through the 440 Wade Avenue interchange should come with less of a hassle. There's a new flyover bridge. This will connect drivers on 440 East to the westbound lanes of Wade Avenue heading towards the airport. There are two changes you should know about ahead of your morning drive today. One, the temporary off-ramp to Wade Avenue West is now closed. And two, there's now a traffic light where the new lanes merge onto Wade Avenue. The new flyover connector is a part of the ongoing 440 widening project. That project began back in 2019. It's costing the state more than $346 million.
We are going to move into next year with a few things, so certainly that's going to be something we watch out for. But I believe light is at the end of the tunnel, and people are going to be so pleased.
You heard me mention the new traffic light where the new lanes merge onto Wade Avenue. So that's it right there. And there's even a reminder for drivers, a sign there that says stop here on red. The 440 widening project is set to be complete at some point next year. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Raleigh.
You do have one last chance to catch gymnastics today. Simone Biles returned to compete this morning. She took 5th in the balance beam. In the next half hour, she'll compete in the floor finals. And we do know that. Here are some of the big events happening. Let's run through them. Our coverage begins at 9 o'clock with track and field. Men's beach volleyball quarterfinals get started at 11 a.m. Team USA faces Italy in that competition. Then at noon, women's beach volleyball gets started. We have the U.S. versus Canada. And then at 4 p.m., the gold medal game for the women's 3-on-3 basketball game kicks off, and you can catch Duke alum Sierra Burdick in that game.
And North Carolina State University swimmer Catherine Burkhoff secured a gold medal. She raced in a preliminary heat for the 4 by 100 meter medley relay and the semifinal. Burkhoff did not race in the final, but will still get the medal for helping the U.S. get there. She won the bronze medal on Tuesday in the 100 meter backstroke final.
Scientists are using new technology to track hurricanes. That is why we are going to explore how the equipment is improving the ability to chase the storm.
And weekend storms brought a tree down on a home in Granville County. We'll hear from a family forced from their house by the extensive damage. Elizabeth.
Here's a radar view of Debbie with lots of rain out ahead of it to the north. That rain is headed our way. I'll show you when we'll begin to see the first rain bands.
You're waking up this morning, you're hearing us reporting that Hurricane Debbie made landfall, and you're like, well, what does it look like? Inglewood Beach, Florida, live look right here. You see how dark it is out there? The wind blowing those palm trees there, the rain hitting the lens. This is just south of Tampa, not too far from the Fort Myers area. We've got meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner tracking this very carefully. It's kind of spooky to look at that video. I'm not going to lie, Elizabeth.
It really is. I saw some video earlier from Fort Myers, of course, which was just destroyed a few years ago. So I was feeling bad for them. Boy, they had flooded roads there in Fort Myers. This system has moved up the coastline. And so the west coast of Florida really has been hit hard by all of this as it's continuing to move northward. So it moves into Georgia next to South Carolina and then heads our way. But we'll likely see the worst of this out ahead of the center of circulation, which is pretty typical. So we take a look at the timing of this, and you have to kind of look ahead, what's going to be happening. We could see some of the first rain bands here as early as tomorrow. Officially, the center of circulation made landfall around 7 a.m. In Steinhatchee, Florida, which is near the Big Bends, north of Tampa, southwest of Tallahassee. Coastal impacts here in North Carolina, at least down in the Wilmington area, are going to begin today with some rain bands, and then we'll start to see some of that Tuesday into Saturday. The biggest threat here is not going to be wind, but flooding. A very slow-moving system is easily going to dump as much as 4 to 8 inches, maybe up to 10 inches of rain in parts of our area. It continued at least the 8 o'clock advisory to have winds at 75 miles per hour, so parts of Florida still could have some wind issues there, trees down with those strong winds. It's moving northeast at 10 miles per hour, and we'll start to turn our attention to the amount of rainfall that it dumps. And the reason it's going to dump an unusual amount of rainfall is because it's going to be moving so slowly. So the slower it moves over an area, the longer the time it has to dump that heavy rain. So we won't see the center of circulation until maybe Friday night, but we'll begin to see these rain bands as early as tomorrow. Look at how much of that rain is ahead of the center. So very heavy rain in South Carolina during the day tomorrow, and we'll start to see some rain bands. The Wilmington area and areas to our south will really start to see some of that heavy rain tomorrow, but we'll begin to feel some of those rain bands. We watch the storm continuing to move northward. There's Tuesday at lunchtime. There's There's Wednesday at 5 o'clock. We'll just continue to see that heavy rain pushing northward, and it doesn't start to pull out of North Carolina until maybe late on Friday. We could see some lingering impacts easily into Saturday. So why is this moving so slowly? What typically moves tropical systems is the upper level winds, but this storm is cut off from the upper level winds. That's all to our north. So this one's going to wander. Of course, I've showed you the path of the hurricane from the National Hurricane Center, but we have the American model that really just wants to leave it off the coast of South Carolina and then maybe push it back to the west. So it's still a bit up in the air in terms of exactly what the storm will do. But looking at 4 to 10 inches of rainfall in our viewing area, maybe as much as 1.5 feet in the Wilmington area. So we're easily at a moderate to high risk for flooding for the next few days. What can you do to prepare? Clean out your gutters, mow your grass. You're not going to get to it again until maybe sometime next week. And anything you might need in case there's flooding at your house. We're nice and quiet right now. We had a few showers earlier in southern Wake County. Those have fizzled. We'll likely have some afternoon showers and thunderstorms, but they'll be isolated at best. Any storms that develop, though, could produce some heavy rain like they did yesterday. It's a bit wet in Apex, where we had a shower just about an hour and a half ago. 79 right now, and we'll see temperatures climbing to 89. Our temperatures will be cooler than they were last week because of all the clouds and the rain that we'll end up seeing. Coming up in a little bit, we'll talk more about some of those heavy rainfall totals. Ken?
Elizabeth, they continue to follow the breaking news here on I-40 westbound at Gorman Street. A crash in that area have really slowed things down. You can see our friends at the State DOT has zoomed in a little bit because we've been seeing people getting out of the lane and getting onto the shoulder and trying to get off on Gorman Street. But this is the kind of delay that you're talking about this morning. You're looking at a 22-minute delay right now on the south side of the Beltline. Particularly, I would suggest using the north side of the Beltline this morning as a way of getting around the situation on the south side of the Beltline. Another troubled spot we've been following all morning long is when these lanes in US 1 northbound, it's been a real, I think it's really just a morning congestion this morning because we're not seeing any traffic accidents in that area. An alternate route for you this morning might be taking State Highway 540 over to 64 and working your way back to US 1. That'll help you avoid the slowdowns that we're seeing right now on those northern lanes on I-40. Got a couple of instances that we want to get you to right now this morning. This one is a serious crash on Cary Parkway, northbound near Tryon Road. We're not seeing any issues in that area, but if you're on Cary Parkway, you will see some police activity in the area, so just keep that in mind. One more thing really quickly, on Rock Quarry Road in the eastbound lane near Creech Road. This is near Southeast Raleigh High School, so keep that in mind, but we're not seeing any delays in those areas right now.
We'll check back in with you in just a bit. Thank you, Ken. Happening today, President Biden will meet with his national security team this afternoon to discuss developments in the Middle East. Before he meets with his team, the president will hold talks with the King of Jordan. The discussions will happen a day after the king held talks with France's president about trying to de-escalate tensions in the region. Iran has vowed to take revenge against Israel after the assassination of the Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran last week. The United States is sending forces to the region to help protect Israel in case Iran acts on its threat.
Vice President Kamala Harris could announce her running mate at any point now. She's set to make her first public appearance with her pick tomorrow in Philadelphia. Harris plans to crisscross the country with her VP pick to meet voters in hopes of rallying their support. On Thursday, they'll be here in North Carolina at Research Triangle Park. Other stops include Detroit, Savannah, Phoenix, and Las Vegas later this week.
And checking back in with our Olympic updates right here. Jeff Hogan in the WRAL Live Center. Simone Biles and Suni Lee competing on the beam this morning. Both fell off the beam and did not medal. They fell off the podium at the same time in that. So we're waiting for the floor routines to get started. Biles will be 7th competitor when they move to the floor. Jordan Childs will be the last competitor that will go. By the way, Italy's Alice D'Amato won gold on the beam, and Italy also took bronze in that apparatus.
All right, thanks for the update, Jeff. A Granville County family can no longer stay in their home after a tree fell on it. It happened during the severe storms most of our area saw Saturday. Patricia and Charles Etheridge say they heard a big boom in the kitchen and they knew something was wrong. The wind sent a massive tree across the home they've lived in for years. It destroyed their living room and car.
You're going to have to leave everything behind. That saddens me. Saddens me to the point that I had to cry. because I feel so much emotions.
It's just so sad. A tree fell the day before on one of their neighbors' homes, and now a tarp covers her roof as they all prepare for more storms in the week ahead.
This weekend saw 2 stabbings near the downtown Raleigh bus station. Ahead, reaction from city leaders and a look at ongoing efforts to reduce crime in that area.
And millions of people sat down to watch the season finale of the HBO series House of the Dragon. Many people are going to the internet to search for a specific topic. We'll see if you can guess that before we come back.
As you get into your car, tune to WRAL News Plus on your radio. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM. In Durham, 96.5 FM. And everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
Good morning and happy Monday. Time now is 8:26. I'm Michelle McConaughey. We're tracking some big backups on I-40 this morning. Ken Smith is telling us exactly where, Ken.
Yeah, Michelle, we're continuing to follow this breaking news on I-40 and in the westbound lanes near Gorman Street. That's where a crash happened. Right now, we're being told that that crash has moved off to the shoulder of the road. But I tell you, as you can see the backup that it's causing right now, and the delays that we've been monitoring that for you as well. Take a look at what we're talking about. It's going to add at least 20 minutes to your commute time on that south side of the Beltline. So I would recommend using the north side of the Beltline to be on the safe side to avoid this backup you're seeing right there in the south side of the Beltline.
Taking a look at where Debbie is, it's moved onshore, the center of circulation, with lots of rain out ahead of it, moving into Georgia and South Carolina. It is likely to weaken down to a tropical storm here shortly, but the rainfall is going to be the biggest issue across parts of Georgia and South Carolina, 20 plus inches of rain. And for us, we'll likely see as much as 4 to 8 inches in the north and 6 to 10 inches in the south. Closer to Wilmington, it could be easily a foot to maybe even 1.5 feet of rain. So we're looking at some catastrophic flooding from, say, Wilmington southward down towards Savannah, Georgia. Taking a look here, we had some showers this morning in Apex. It's a warm, sticky start this morning. 79 is our temperature, our dew point at 75. And we do have a small chance for thunderstorms this afternoon. Any storms that do pop up are likely to produce some brief heavy rain. Hour by hour, temperatures climb into the upper 80s, and it does stay fairly cool this week with that good chance for rain. We'll start to see the first rain bands from Debbie as early as tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Coming up next on Fox 50, our team coverage continues with Debbie and more on local impacts as well. And up next on Today, more Team USA medalists, including the men's rowing team.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
As it is moving inland here in Florida, with the rain stretching as far north as Savannah. I'll show you when we'll start to see some of the rain bands here.
And we have team coverage of Debbie as the storm moves closer to land this morning. The effects in Florida as the storm approaches and what people here in North Carolina are doing to prepare before it moves up the coast.
And happening now in the WO Traffic Center, we continue to follow this breaking news of a crash on I-40 westbound on Gorman Street. You can see the heavy backup is calling. I'll let you know how long this backup is going to take you and an alternate route.
And she's already made history. A little misstep this morning, but right now Simone Biles is competing for more gold in Paris. We're tracking her progress and the rest of Team USA throughout the day's Olympic coverage. A lot going on to get to. We'll get to that in just a bit. But first, thanks for joining us here on WRAL News and Fox 50. I'm Chris Levingood.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. Obviously, the big story this morning, Debbie. We've been tracking it very closely. It has made landfall already. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is showing us exactly where and how much rain this comes with.
Yeah, lots and lots of rain with this. It is still a Category 1 hurricane, barely. And so there will be some wind issues, likely trees down and some damage here. Southeast of Tallahassee and west of Gainesville is where the center of the circulation is. But like this storm and so many others, the bulk of the rain is out ahead of it or to the east of it. So Florida's been dealing with this for, well over 24 hours. We already have a lot of flooding happening up and down the west coast of Florida. I saw some video from Fort Myers earlier, and a lot of streets underwater there. Winds at 75 miles per hour. It's moving northeast at 10 in the 8 o'clock advisory. We'll get another advisory here in another hour. And at that point, it's likely to be a tropical storm. Going forward, as it moves into Georgia and South Carolina, it's not going to be so much of a wind issue. We're looking at catastrophic flooding with this system because it's going to be such a slow mover. And the slower it moves, the longer time it has to dump some heavy rain. And boy, this is going to have a lot of heavy rain along with it. For us, by the time it starts to really dump the rain on us, looking at 4 to 8 inches in our northern counties and 6 to 10 in our southern counties down around Wilmington, easily a foot, maybe even a foot and a half of rain. And then from Wilmington southward, 15, 20 inches of rain. Could be some pockets even heavier from, say, Myrtle Beach all the way down to Savannah, Georgia. So what we'll see here this afternoon, some isolated storms with some heavy rain, but again, isolated and not related to Debbie. We'll start to see some coastal rain bands around the Wilmington area. And then tomorrow we'll begin to see the first outer rain bands here, and that rain will continue to be heavy at the coast. For our viewing area, Wednesday through Friday is when we'll see the heaviest rain. That's when we'll have the best chance of seeing some flooding and some gusts 20 to 40 miles per hour, which with some very moist soils could knock down some trees. It's cloudy in Raleigh right now, 79 with a dew point of 75. So it's a real sticky day out there. A small chance of rain, 20 to 30%. But if you do see some of the storms, they're probably going to produce some brief heavy rain. A high of 89 degrees, and our temperatures will continue to cool with our good chance for rain. I'll show you that coming up, Ken.
We continue to follow the breaking news on the south side of the Beltline this morning. A crash that shut down that really off to the shoulder of the road right now. You saw the delays that it caused on Lake Wheeler Road and I-40 and those westbound lanes. Right now, it's adding about 17 minutes to your commute time on those south side of the Beltline. I would use the northern side of the Beltline to get around and avoid the 17-minute delay. Another trouble spot we've been watching this morning, the northbound lanes here at US 1 between 64 and State Road 540, and that's actually the alternate route I'm recommended this morning. If you want to avoid these slowdowns that we're seeing in those northbound lanes there at US 1, take State Road 540 over to 64 and work your way back to US 1 this morning. That should help you avoid that mess that we're seeing this morning. Also around the triangle, one other thing I want to bring your attention to, because a lot of the icons you're seeing right now not really affecting your morning commute at all, but there's one thing I do want to bring your attention to is a crash that we've been monitoring this morning for quite some time, not really causing too much of an issue for you. This is the one at Rock Quarry Road and eastbound lane near Creech Road. This is near Southeast Raleigh High School, so I wanted to bring that to your attention, but it's not causing any problems in that particular area. But just watch for some police activity if you happen to be on Creech Road this morning.
Good to know as people are out on the road. Thank you, Ken. Well, let's get you out now to a live look at Inglewood Beach in Florida. This is where people are experiencing the effects of Hurricane Debbie. It's something we've been watching very closely there. People from Florida and all along the southeast up to North Carolina are preparing for the storm. And yes, WRAL has you covered. We start our team coverage with Jeff Hogan, who is in the WRAL Live Center. Where are you looking at this morning, Jeff?
We've already taken a look at some of those pictures in Florida. I want to give you a little different perspective here by taking a look at FlightAware's misery map right now. Okay, we look at this all the time. There are travel troubles out there, but focus on Florida right there. First thing that jumps out is the radar. All that rain covering the entire state. Now, if you added Miami International along with Fort Lauderdale airports, you would lead the country in delays and cancellations. Take you over to the Gulf side. Take a look at Tampa right now, and I'm going to update this because it's been updating by the minute, basically, but there are 99 canceled flights out of Tampa. 73 right now are delayed. Central part of the state there in Orlando, 146 right now as far as delays, but 169 cancellations. Doesn't matter what airline either. This is all weather related. Bring it back home right now to RDU. You can see there are 20 flights that are delayed right now. 27 are canceled. And the thing is, a lot of those flights may be headed south right into the teeth of that storm. So concerns there. We bring it back on the ground here and take it to Laura Levine, who is at Lake Johnson right now because important preparations being made about water levels and different things in our area ahead of Debbie. Laura.
Yeah, Jeff, crews began preparing here in Raleigh for Debbie over the weekend. Here at Lake Johnson, they began lowering lake levels, and they're doing this all across the triangle. Now, take a look at this video where you can see some of that process from Ethan Clark sharing these photos online. He's with the city stormwater team who has been working closely with emergency management. They made the call to proactively lower city lakes. This allows them to store more water and help reduce flooding concerns along Walnut Creek. Now, over on the North Carolina coast, we know we're already seeing the impacts of Tropical Storm or now Hurricane Debbie. Rough water picking up at Wrightsville Beach, where Ocean Rescue is flying red flags.
From an ocean rescue standpoint, if it does look like it's going to be a major impact on our community, we will do things like remove lifeguard stands, just kind of get the area ready for a potential impact. But as it starts to lead up, a lot of times we start to see the swell come in prior to the storm, well before the storm.
And officials say those conditions will likely get worse as the days progress, as North Carolina is right in Debbie's path. Laura Levine, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
And breaking news in Raleigh, a car crashed on I-440 near Capitol Boulevard just after 11 o'clock last night. The crash shut down several lanes of traffic, and you can see damage to the red car and a Raleigh police vehicle. We're working to learn more about what led to the crash and if anyone was hurt in this. And another crash to report, this one involving a Wake County Sheriff's Office vehicle. This is video from the WRAL breaking news tracker on I-540 near Creedmoor Road. We still don't know much about this crash. WRAL's Nick Perlin was on the scene and said the deputy's car was badly damaged and that someone was in handcuffs. We'll keep you updated when we hear back about this crash as well.
And Michelle, a busy part of I-440 just got an upgrade. Today is the first morning commute that drivers will use a new on-ramp onto Wade Avenue. There's a new flyover bridge. Basically, it connects drivers on 440 East to the westbound lanes of Wade Avenue headed toward the airport. There are two changes you should know, though, ahead of your morning commute. One, the temporary off-ramp to Wade Avenue West is now closed. Two, there's now a traffic light where the new lanes merge onto Wade Avenue. The new flyover connector is part of the ongoing 440 widening project. Flooding in Raleigh created a lot of problems for drivers yesterday. I mean, look at this behind me. Streets look more like lakes and river, with water actually pulling up and clearing out just as fast. This was the diverging Diamond interchange on Western Boulevard. Cars had to swerve and slow down to avoid sliding on the water that seeped onto the road. Meanwhile, this right here is the side of Saunders Street. A car stalled out in the water and teams had to come out in the rain to work to drain it so that the car could get moving again. Meanwhile, on Cutler Street, rushing water flowed like a river along a neighborhood road. Look at that. The water pushed past cars that were parked there on the pavement. And then finally, on Hillsborough Street, more slick spots, more ponding. That raised the risk for hydroplaning. There's a vehicle stalled in standing water as well. And the rain saturated the ground, which creates the risk for uprooting trees.
You have one last chance to catch gymnastics today. Simone Biles competing now for a chance at gold, the floor competition that's happening as we speak. Big events today include track and field. Our coverage begins at 9 a.m. with that. Men's beach volleyball quarterfinals. That gets started at 11 a.m. Team USA faces Italy. Then at noon, women's beach volleyball gets started, USA versus Canada. And then at 4 p.m., the gold medal game for the women's 3x3 basketball kicks off. You can catch Duke's Sierra Burdick in that game.
Suni Lee held down the fort as the only American in yesterday's uneven bars final. She earned a bronze and successfully defended her podium finish in Tokyo. Lee became the first U.S. woman to win 2 Olympic medals in this event. This morning, Lee took sixth on the beam, and today is the final day of gymnastics in Paris. Happening right now, Biles is going for at least trying to get her 4th gold medal in Paris. That's where she is a clear favorite. Her teammate, Jordan Childs, is also competing in the floor exercise. That got started at about 8:23, not long ago this morning.
And let's take a look at the medal count this morning. The U.S. in the lead with 72 medals. China is in second place with 51 medals, but the same amount of gold as USA. France, Great Britain, and Australia are not too far behind.
Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine finds major success at the box office. What's propelling this action comedy to record profits as fans flock to theaters?
And a former NC State tennis star helps Russia earn its first medal at this year's Olympic Games. Why the Wolfpack talent is one of just 15 athletes competing for her home country.
And just in case you are just joining us, Hurricane Debbie did make landfall in Florida around 7 o'clock this morning. You are getting a live look at Longboat Key. Longboat Key, that is south of Tampa. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner will have more on the storms, the track, and the timeline when we come back.
Welcome back. We are coming up on 8:45 on your Monday morning. This is a live look in Perry, Florida right now. Lots of rain and wind from Debbie. That is about an hour southeast of where Tallahassee is. That's where Perry, Florida is. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner, she's been tracking this storm since it formed. It is going towards the Panhandle. It's still a hurricane, correct?
It is still a hurricane. We're going to get another update, though, probably within 5 to 10 minutes, and most likely at that point, it will be downgraded to a tropical storm. And this is not going to be so much about the wind speed, which is, what you use to base this, a tropical storm versus hurricane on. This is all going to be about the wind. Here's Perry right here. It's pretty neat that we just saw that view. So some of the inner rain bands, which are where we see some of the heaviest rain, are rolling through Perry right now. So the center of circulation is going to be traveling up toward Georgia. Most of the rain is out ahead of this storm at this point. It officially made landfall at 7 a.m. Just to the south in Steinhatchee, Florida. Coastal impacts in North Carolina, meaning the Wilmington area, will start today. They're going to start to see some of the rain bands. We'll start to see rain bands tomorrow, but we'll really see the heaviest rain Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and maybe even into early Saturday. Again, the greatest risk from this system from this point forward is going to be the flooding. We could see 4 to 10 inches in our area, but parts of the southeast could see as much as 20 plus inches of rain out of the system. Officially right now, 75 mile per hour winds, but again, I feel like once we get our 9 o'clock advisory, it's going to be down to a tropical storm. Looking at a tropical storm moving across Georgia, out into the Atlantic, and then back inland around Myrtle Beach, and the remnants moving across North Carolina. But out ahead of this will be just this rainfall, and it's such a slow-moving system that it will have a long time to dump a lot of heavy rain. This is a look at Futurecast tomorrow at 8 a.m. As we get through the afternoon, watch these first rain bands starting to push into our area, especially midday into the afternoon, and lots of heavy rain around Wilmington. As it slowly moves northward from Savannah through Charleston to Wilmington, it's going to dump a lot of heavy rain. We'll follow it here. And you can see the red shaded area. That's where the heaviest rain will be. And that continues to push up into North Carolina, especially on Friday. Thursday and Friday will be the breeziest days for us. We could see some gusts 20 to 40 miles per hour. And that could knock down some trees, especially with some very moist or saturated soil. You can see here from Charleston northward to Myrtle Beach, that pink area, that's going to be 20 plus inches of rain. And the yellow area from Wilmington all the way down toward Florida is going to be at least 15 plus inches. So for us, 4 to 8 inches from the triangle area northward, 6 to 10 south of Raleigh, and then of course some much heavier amounts in Wilmington. You can see that purple shaded area down around Wilmington. That's going to be extreme flooding around the Fayetteville area. We're in a high flood risk, and then the remainder of the viewing area is medium. You can see that purple stretches all the way down into Florida. So for us, starting tomorrow, we're going to see on and off rain bands rolling through. Medium to high risk for flooding, especially as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Thursday and Friday, 20 to 40 mile per hour gusts, and we'll be watching for the potential for some tornadoes as well. We had some rain earlier this morning, especially in Wake County. We're likely to see a few more showers that develop later this afternoon. Some of those could produce heavy rain, but the coverage of rain that we see today will be pretty minimal. Here's a live look at downtown Raleigh, looking past the legislative building. A little blue sky trying to peek through, but overall today is going to be cloudy. Right now it is 79. We'll see a high of 89. We'll see some cool temperatures Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And of course, that's because of all the rain that we'll be in for.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Raleigh police are investigating another stabbing near the downtown Raleigh bus station. It is the second stabbing there recently. The latest one happened Sunday morning around 6 a.m. Police say that a passenger stabbed a bus driver on Salisbury Street. That's about 2 blocks from the main Go Raleigh station. The driver returned the bus to the station before being taken to the hospital. On Saturday morning, a woman was stabbed there around 3:30 in the morning, and city leaders say that they are trying to address the issues while still treating people with compassion.
We just had some funding given to our Housing and Neighborhoods Department. They're working with community partners and nonprofits to put more boots on the ground, so to speak.
We want to do everything we can to avoid putting somebody in the criminal justice system when they've obviously got some type of substance abuse problem or mental health issue.
Despite the stabbings this weekend, recent data shows crime near Moore Square is down 50%.
A University of Alabama football player who had just transferred to NC Central died when he got out of his car to check on victims of a car crash near Charlotte. Terrence T. Howard's family says he was headed to Durham when he was involved in a crash last week. Howard's father told us his son had stepped out of the car to check on the victims and was hit. He said the NCCU community has shown tremendous support for their family.
A man accused of shooting and killing a man and injuring a woman in Raleigh is expected to make a first court appearance today. Look at your screen. This is Julius Wilcox. He is charged with murder. The shooting happened on Briarmont Court, that is near Sunnybrook Road, on Saturday. Sharice McLean is the person who died. Investigators say that all people involved in this case knew each other.
New cutting-edge technology is helping researchers track hurricanes and learn more about the powerful storms. It's called Sail Drone. It's 23 feet long and is packed with cameras and sensors. These drones literally sail right into the storm and can withstand powerful winds, even 50-foot waves, giving scientists a view of hurricanes they've never seen before. It sends data back in real time, including wind speed, wave height, and ocean temperature. This data collected from inside the storm itself will make forecasts even more precise.
It's all building up to improving forecasts, improving predictions to help give people more preparation and more lead time warnings.
The drones are wind propelled and solar powered and can remain at sea for up to a year. 11 others like it will deploy this season from hurricane zones in Florida, the Virgin Islands, and North Carolina. And today, the search for UNC's next chancellor is moving fast and quietly. At a special meeting at noon, the Board of Trustees will hear a report from the Chancellor Search Committee. The committee interviewed candidates in person last week. It must forward at least 3 names to the trustees. The trustees will then push 3 names onto UNC System President Peter Hans. Who the candidates are remains a secret. The committee says confidentiality is a must.
CrowdStrike, the cybersecurity firm involved in last month's global tech outage, wants Delta Airlines to stop blaming it for flight disruptions. The firm is denying responsibility for Delta's ongoing losses after the outage. The airline has threatened to file a lawsuit against CrowdStrike to recover losses, which Delta says amounts to about $500 million. This is money lost in money and compensation. CrowdStrike says that it offered on-site assistance to Delta, but they were declined.
Russia is fielding just 15 athletes at this year's Olympics. That's less than usual. That's a result of Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. Those athletes are competing as individual neutral athletes. One of those is former NC State tennis star Diana Schneider. She helped to earn the first medal for any Russian athlete this year. Schneider, alongside her partner, won silver in the women's doubles. The pair lost the gold medal match in a tiebreaker to an Italian duo. The former ACC Freshman of the Year is the Pac's first tennis player to make the Olympic Games. Marvel's summer blockbuster continues its record-breaking performance at the box office. Deadpool and Wolverine is now the highest-grossing R-rated film, not accounting for inflation, by reaching nearly $400 million in 2 weeks at theaters. The third installment in the Deadpool franchise remains at the top of the box office. Studio estimates show it brought in $97 million in its second weekend. Twisters finished the week in a distant second at the box office with $22.7 million, while thriller movie Trap debuted in third with $15.6 million.
House of the Dragon's season finale premiered last night, and fans are already looking forward to the next season. Now, season 2 of the House of the Dragon wrapped up in far from typical fashion for the high fantasy series. Regardless of any possible disappointment, the people are already looking for more. Google searches for House of the Dragon season 3 went up by 1,000% following the release of last night's season 2 finale.
And before we go to break, here are your winning lottery numbers. We'll get another check on weather and traffic next.